We'll invite you up here to come. Cori Bush has been a strong and brave and independent voice for the poor and marginalized prior to her years in Congress, during her congressional tenure, and since. For her leadership in #ExpectUs and the Truth-Telling Project that brings awareness to police brutality and social injustices, and implement grassroots community-centered truth-telling and reparations processes to achieve Black liberation and solidarity with persons of color, for promoting affordable housing for all, increased protections for renters, and holding corporate landlords accountable for harmful practices, for her commitment to guaranteeing health care as a fundamental human right and advocating for Medicare for all. We can applaud that if you want. For her work with other members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, especially strong persons of color, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, Jamal Bowman, Summer Lee, and others, for their principled stands in Congress against racism, theocracy, and Christian nationalism, and for their support for Palestine and the rule of law, for her courageous early resolution for ceasefire, for standing up against the Zionist lobby, calling for an end to U.S. military aid to Israel, and standing up for anti-war protesters on campuses and in the streets, for her unwavering witness for the dignity of all people, and for Palestinian civil, political, and human rights. For all this and more, we present Congresswoman Cori Bush with our 2025 Indiana Center for Middle East Peace Champion of Justice Award. This plate is from the Palestine pottery shop in East Jerusalem. And it's by the Balians, and they have works at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you for this honor. I would love to put this up in my new office. I'm going to have a new office. I won't talk about the office, but I'm going to have a new office coming up really soon, I believe. So we'll make sure that this is up. First of all, let me just say thank you to the Indiana Churches for Middle East Peace, to all the board members, to the volunteers, to the donors, to everyone who has made this place special, who have made this place grow, and who have made it powerful. So thank you for your work for, 21 years? Is that right? 21 years. And we know that organizations come, organizations go, groups come, and groups go. For you all to still be doing the work and still be excited about it. That's what I'm seeing. You all are excited about it. That makes all the difference. And so thank you for inviting me to be here with you all. Can you all hear me okay over there? Yes. Okay. What about over there in the back? Yeah. All right. That's our tech crew over there in the back. You all, we are here because we remember what it means to stand. Every single day, that's the work that we do. We remember what it means to stand when standing costs. We are here because we refuse to let cruelty become ordinary. We're here because the soul of our democracy, which we keep hearing over and over and over, it demands more of us than politeness. It demands more of us than a polite silence. Back in 2014, there was a young man in my community named Michael Brown who was killed at 18 years old. Before the real story of his killing was made public, there was a story made public of his killing that caused for any empathy for him or his family to be snatched away. Even today, people still believe the story that was first told about him. But I remember I had just had church service. We had finished church. We would have church on Saturdays. And we had church. And I remember getting something to eat, and I was scrolling on Facebook. And there was this body of this 18-year-old. Scrolled again. There was this body. Checked out, went home. There is this body. Over and over again throughout the day. And then, because even by that time in 2014, murder, bodies, it was nothing new to see on your social media. At least not on mine. I didn't even read it. I didn't even read to see what happened. So desensitized. But then when I finally, because I just kept seeing it, I kept scrolling it. And then I started seeing protesters. Well, they weren't protesters at the time, it's just community showing up. And I'm like, what is happening? And I found that that was 6 minutes from my home. And so I decided, over the course of the next several hours, I needed to be there. I showed up on the ground. I was thinking, I'm a nurse. I can help heal heal wounds. I am a pastor. I can pray with people. I don't know what's needed, but I can show up. What I saw on the streets of my own community broke my heart. This was my community. On one side of the street was my nail salon, where I would get my nails done every 2 weeks. On the opposite side of the street is where I would get my hair done. Just up the street was the Walmart that I used to go to back then. Further up the street was another store that I frequented and a clinic. This was my neighborhood. My sister lived just 2 blocks up. It was my neighborhood. But this atrocity happened for all of us to witness. His body laid on the ground for 4.5 hours. 4 of those hours uncovered in the middle of an apartment complex that's like a fishbowl. So all you had to do was look out your window and there was a body of an 18-year-old laying on the ground, traumatizing people, traumatizing children. I remember after a few days coming to the ground. Now I got my boss because I was like, I didn't want to leave the protest. The protest was 24 hours a day. I didn't want to go to work and leave the protest by that Monday, by that Tuesday. So I told my job, hey, we need to put a van out on the ground and let's help take care of people. They said, okay. I didn't think it would work, but it did. And so I was able to be out on the ground helping people as the nurse during the day. And then I would go home for an hour, hour and a half, help my kids with homework, give them some food, and then hit right back on the street. And now I'm back out with a bandana, a t-shirt, and some boots on, protesting all night. But one day, a few days later, there was this group of people, a delegation of Palestinians, came to the United States, to Missouri, to St. Louis, to Ferguson, and were sitting on the ground just feet from where Michael Brown's body had laid. They were sitting on the ground teaching us what to do when tear gassed. Because remember, 2014 the internet was not the information highway that it is right now, especially as it relates to protest stuff. We were pouring water on our signals, burning. And when I asked them, why are you doing this? Why are you risking yourself for people you don't even have to care about? And what they said was, because we understand state-sanctioned violence. We understand occupation. You have an occupying force in your community. And because we understand what that's like, we don't want it to happen to anyone else. And that changed me. Because I was living in my black girl bubble that was trying to make sure I don't get evicted from my home, trying to keep the lights on, trying to keep my son from being the next hashtag in this community that is #1 for police murder in the country. That's what I was living. I didn't take enough time to think about, even though I was working to help people out of human trafficking as a pastor, and I was working with the unhoused community as a pastor, but even though I was doing that, I didn't move outside of that. And so it was during that time that I realized, Cori, you got to pay attention to other people's oppression. And then when you pay attention, you got to do something about it. There was another night on the street. The police, all we were doing was chanting. The police showed up, full riot gear. They had their shields and batons. The people were chanting. And this one young boy, he had to be about 16 years old, black like me. We were on the front line. Me, him, and this short, well, I didn't say short because she was just a little bit shorter than me, but white woman, pastor. And I'll never forget, we're on the front line, the police was right here in front of us. And this young boy was saying, FTP, you know. And he kept saying it, FTP, FTP. But he was saying it. I'm not saying it because I am on the microphone and I am in a situation right now. But you know what I mean. And the officer got so angry because he was saying these words. These words. The officer was pissed off about words. We were hearing this. That was his shield, letting us know I'm getting pissed off. And then the other officers were banging their shields on the ground. And then at one point, he got so angry that all of a sudden we saw this. His baton had went up in the air. He was coming down to crack the young boy over his head. And as it came down, it was caught. Before it touched the boy, it was caught in the air. The white woman, standing about this tall, caught it. And she said, "No, you will not." The police officer was stunned, and so was I. I'm thinking to myself, we are all about to get beat down. The officer was so shocked that he was just shaking, holding the baton. She wouldn't let go, and she was looking him straight in his face. So finally, he just pulled back his baton and walked away. That was the second instance where I saw somebody who is not oppressed in the same way, somebody who does not bear the same struggle, somebody who is not as vulnerable as someone else, stepping up for someone else. And how exactly, hallelujah, and how that changed the situation. So from that moment, I realized something. When our brothers and sisters are under siege, when people are under siege, whether in our own city blocks, whether across oceans, our conscience can't sleep, doesn't sleep. I realized in that moment, you gotta do the same thing and you gotta repay it back. Don't know when, don't know how, but you gotta repay this back. And so I understood we gotta be awake. That part of us, that humanity that is so deep inside of us, not the part that's on the surface that's just like, well, yeah, I want you to get hit by a bus. Not that part. Because that's a thing. You're like, well, I don't like her, but like, you know, I don't want her to get hit by a bus. I'm not talking about that part of the humanity. I'm talking about the part of humanity that says, I'm hurting because I got my own stuff. But you're hurting and I see it. And because I see it, because I know it, that means that I have to do something about it. Even if I can't fix your problem, can I connect you to someone who can? Can I do anything because I know? That humanity that's awake, that humanity that cries out, that humanity that organizes. We have learned from the long arc of liberation that freedom is never given to us. It's not just handed out. It is demanded. It is argued for. It is bled for. It is prayed for. And so today, that simple truth, like Dr. King taught us that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, we say that all the time. If we don't lift our voices right now, which I know you all have, lifting your voices for the Palestinian people who are currently living under siege. If we don't lift it in a way differently than we did in 2014, or the year after that, or 2 years after that, or even how we did 2 years ago, we are betraying the same spirit that marched across the nation for civil rights, for dignity, and for life, because you can't bring old movement into new moments. We can't do that. Yes, we bring it. We bring what we've learned so that we can be better. That was just training. Yes, you might have marched with Dr. King, and you still in the fight. We love you for it. But there are some folk, probably over there in that corner, that didn't get to march with Dr. King, but are now doing their own marches. And they could use your wisdom and help. But also, those folk over there in the corner, and some dispersed out here, also have something that those that did march with Dr. King may not have. And we put those together because that's how this movement moves. We don't push anybody to the side like, you know, it was the whole, no one left behind that really left folk behind. This is not it. We're not leaving anybody behind. So whatever your expertise is, whatever that thing is, you got to bring it to the table. And so fast forward to when I finally made it to Congress, I ran for U.S. Senate and I lost. 4 weeks after, almost 4 weeks after I ran for that U.S. Senate seat, I remember actually the night I came home from my watch party. I came home and I had spent so much time. I was working as a nurse full time and I was running back and forth across the state. I was trying to win this seat because the community asked me to run. And the only reason I said I would run is because I didn't want my son to be the next hashtag. And I didn't do enough about it because I was afraid to run for office when the community asked me. So I said, okay, to protect my son and to protect my daughter and to protect those of us who I don't even know. But a few weeks after, that night when I lost, I came home from the watch party broken because I still couldn't believe I lost. It's humiliating. And then people donate to you and you're like, dang, I wasted your money. Even though you didn't try to, so it was hard. I came home and my car had been repossessed. I'm looking, it was 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm looking for my car. Heartbroken. And then heartbroken because I didn't have a car. But that's the reality of regular folk running for office. 3.5 weeks later, a friend of mine, a Ferguson activist, woke up at 6 a.m. to the news that his body was found with bullet holes burning inside of a car. I'm grieving that, and then a few hours later, I was violently sexually assaulted. Ended up in the hospital. And then I was told that there was a list to come after Ferguson activists, because you know people were actually killing us. But that was meant to silence me. Don't you run for office and close your mouth. But I ran again. Once I got myself together. Because the work of the people can't be contingent upon my feelings. It has to be about purpose and intention. It has to be about what happens tomorrow. So I'm talking to somebody in here that feels like I'm tired. I'm talking to somebody in here who's not telling anybody else, but you know that you're starting to do a little different in your work. I get it. I know it's tough. But what's harder is what people will have to live through if the people who are here right now, like Esther for such a time as this, decide that I don't have even what Esther had. Gumption. Moxie, stick and stay. So I ran for office again, and I lost. But I picked myself back up and I ran for office again, and I won. I won. Let me tell you the key to my win. I ran. Literally, the only way you can definitely win is if you run. That's for some folk in here too. Some of you all are complaining and talking about what's not happening in the world, and some of it's because you were supposed to be leading the world. But my kids are too young, it's not time yet. But my business, this is what will happen to my business. I don't have enough education, all of these reasons. And so people are missing out on transformation because you're trying to figure your ish out. When I got to Congress, so every time I ran on Palestinian liberation. Every single time I ran on ending the siege. Every single time I ran for the self-determination of Palestinians because of what I learned out there on the ground in 2014. But when there was the ground invasion, we were, after October 7th, there was this announcement that Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli military were going to start a ground invasion in Rafah. It took me back to thinking, as the protester, and still to this day, Ferguson activists either call me Pastor Cori or Mama Cori, because I was that on the ground. Because one thing that I would do is, if the police were coming with the batons, I jumped on people. If they were about to be pepper sprayed in their faces, I jumped on them. I was always doing this. There's video of me doing that and getting it myself because I covered the other person. I was trying to think, how do I do this for Palestinians. And I couldn't figure it out. And I talked to my dear sister, the incredible Rashida Tlaib. Oh my gosh, that is my heart. I love her so much. She's even more beautiful in person and as a human, just knowing her than she is than what we hear about her. I was thinking, how do I help her? Because as the only Palestinian American in the Congress, she can't be the one to lead this. Because she's burdened. She's oppressed differently. So it took me back to Ferguson. So I said, sis, we need a ceasefire. If you can't lead it right now, I'll do it. I'll do it because I understand what it's like to be the one most directly impacted, and then also having, you need to be the one to do the work. So if you want me to catch the arrows for you, if you want me to stand up in front of you, to give you a break, I'll do it. And so I introduced that legislation. The attacks, the criticism, the death threats were so tremendous. But we kept going. The White House came after us, but we kept going. Our colleagues came after us, we kept going. The opposition came after us, but we kept going. Your work is to keep going. Thank you for what you've done up until now. 21 years of education, of teaching, of marching, of locking arms. The amount of kafiyas I see in this room. Showing solidarity. This is what legislators need to see. We cannot be fooled by the politics that will ask us which life matters, because we know that's what they try to do. We won't be drawn into that contest of grief. Ayanna Pressley calls it the oppression Olympics. We're not going to barter our compassion for convenience. This is what they want you to do. We know that when a child dies of hunger because of that safe humanitarian aid, because it was blocked, or even right now in our own communities because SNAP is cut, and the government are the ones that were supposed to help and be that safety net. When families are shattered by bombs and by denial, when hospitals become battlegrounds instead of havens, we know it's not a debate about geography at all. It's a test of our humanity. And so what is allowed elsewhere threatens what happens everywhere. Everywhere. When we announced that legislation, I knew that the group called AIPAC, how many of you all know who AIPAC is? Boo. I knew that there was a great chance that AIPAC would decide to come from my seat. When I entered Congress, just a couple weeks before I was sworn in, because AIPAC kept sending people to try to stop me. I would show up, hey, Cori, you want to go to lunch? Yeah, sure, let's go to lunch. We go to lunch, and then all of a sudden this person will walk in mid-lunch, coming up to the table. Hi, who are you? Oh, Cori, this is such and such with AIPAC. And then that would be the end of the lunch, because I wasn't getting ready to have a conversation with you. And let's take a picture. I'm not taking a picture with you. I don't want anything to do with you. Now, if you live in St. Louis and you're hungry at some point, I can, and I'm a congresswoman, call the office and I'll help you that way. But that's as far as my work goes. I will take care of you. That's it. But I'm not connecting with the work that you do. And so what they said to me was, Cori, they sent word through someone. We know that you're not going to change your position. But what we're asking you to do is be silent. And if you decide not to be silent, you are going to have a tumultuous tenure in Congress. And my thing was, have we met? Have we met? I stood before tanks and you telling me to be scared of you? I got my butt beat by the police and came back to the streets as soon as I was well enough. You telling me we ran from unleashed dogs. I've been left for dead by an abusive partner. Like you talking to me? I slept in a car with my 2 babies because we were unhoused. You talking to me? They came for me. Not only did they come for me, they gathered some of their friends. Big crypto, big real estate. Big real estate was still mad at me about the eviction moratorium when I decided that 11 million people couldn't be at risk for evictions across this country simply because the president, the CDC, and Congress, didn't get the work done to protect them during a deadly pandemic. And so since I camped out on the steps of 4.5 nights and 5 days, and we won, at least for the first month, big real estate didn't forget. So they all got together and came for me to the tune of about $15 million, roughly up to $18 million. And just for context, this race usually costs $1 million on each side. So about $2 million total. It was about $18 million just from the other side against me. Did they unseat me? Yes. Did they silence me? No. Absolutely not. I don't know how many of you saw it, but the night that I lost at our watch party on the stage, I stood there and I made a declaration. And I remember when I heard it in my head, I was like, what am I about to say? I didn't understand what it meant at the time, but I knew I needed to say it out of my mouth because speaking things puts it into the atmosphere, and speaking them, that is the manifestation of it starting to happen if I just speak it out of my mouth. And so I spoke, AIPAC, I'm coming to tear your kingdom down. And so we are. There are people all across the country that are running for seats that are saying, I'm not taking AIPAC money. There are members of Congress who would have never said it before, who have now made the decision they're not taking it. In the House, people in the Senate, people in state houses. There are churches who are disconnecting. It's happening. So much so to where AIPAC has said, you know what? Let's not say that we don't send it to us. Send it directly to the candidate in this way, so that they won't know. Because their name, I said I wanted to make them as toxic as the NRA for Democrats. And we have done that. We still have a ways to go, but we've done that. And so we must demand continually. We know that they said ceasefire and they wanted to change the story, like, they think about something else. Yeah, we pissed off about the Epstein files. Yeah, let's see these Epstein files. But we ain't forgot about Gaza. Yeah, we know what they're doing to DEI. We ain't forgot about Gaza. We know what they're doing, all of these things. They're coming for public education. Yeah, but we didn't forget about Gaza. We must not forget that our demand for an actual true ceasefire and an actual arms embargo has to continue. But we got to also make sure that we're reminding them that the Israeli government must cease all acts that constitute a genocide. And we must say the word genocide, apartheid, occupation. We got to call the words because, they want you to stop saying it. We tell them that we want to end to the war crimes and the crimes against humanity, that those humanitarian corridors that should be open right now, that should remain open with a true end to the forced starvation, allowing for the flow of life-saving aid and essential items that are needed for the people's survival, an end to the ethnic cleansing in Gaza and the West Bank, and for leaders around the world who created, who fueled, or were complicit in the genocide to all be held accountable for every single war crime and every single human rights abuse that they participated in. And it's not a favor to humanity. It's a moral and legal obligation that must be had. So As we insist on this, we insist on a repair, a just transition to rebuild Gaza and to restore her people. One that delivers not charity, democracy, dignity, freedom, and security. That is what justice requires, and it is what our shared humanity, that's what that means. That's what it demands. And so as I get ready to take my seat. Why is that funny? I want you to feel this like I feel it. So 24 hours a day, it stopped for a little while when I left Congress, but it's back. 24 hours a day, I feel this weeping on the inside of my body, right here, my heart, my chest. It's just continuous weeping, weeping. When I go to sleep, still weeping. When I wake up, still weeping. When I'm happy, weeping. It's a fire in my chest that's not just pain alone, though. It is the urgency of love. Love has an urgency. You know, when you fall in love, or, early on, and you're like, ooh, you always want to be around that person. You hurrying up trying to get ready to go see the person, and it's just like there's this fire, there's this urgency of love. Well, the urgency of loving our neighbor. Love that refuses to be quiet. Love that names the wound and says, I will not look away. Love that knows patience has limits when children are starving. Love that knows our liberation is bound up with theirs. So we keep our fire burning. Keep marching. Keep writing. Keep showing up at the town halls. We disrupt the comfort of those who would rather our outrage be tamed. We hold our neighbors, every single one of them, accountable. And we hold our leaders to every one of their promises. We demand that our taxes not fund the machinery of destruction. And we demand that policy upholds dignity and not devastation. We know Congress is an occupied body. But you know what? It's the people who really have the power. So when you run, or when you show up to the ballot box to vote, remember, you didn't earn my vote, you didn't get my vote. You want to earn my vote? Come talk to me. You want to earn my vote? Open up the town hall and listen to my questions. And if you can't, and if you won't, then you don't deserve my vote. And not only that, I'm going to go tell everybody else not to. Oh, what a shame, they might win. But if they get 27 votes, because we told the whole community, don't vote for this person. Yeah, they might have won. But when their colleagues got 30,000 votes and they got 27 votes because the people in their own community didn't like them but nobody else showed up to win. Teach them a lesson. Don't just give away your vote to these people anymore, because our legacy depends on it. Our children's children depend on it. Don't leave them a world in this chaos, this manufactured chaos and disarray. Don't leave them that because we've done enough. If we breathe, we haven't done enough. You still have life left in you. You still have love left in you. You still have hope in you. You still have a personality that can bring about change. You still have moxie. You got it. So build the coalitions. Don't just be a single voice. Be a single voice, a collective voice. Be hope that this community needs. Be hope that Fort Wayne can't get if you leave. Be hope for every single person that you'll never meet, and be hope for the ones that you have. Thank you so much.